Japan and Kenya are two completely different countries in two entirely diverse environments. Yet while there may appear to be no consistencies between them, the fundamental economic structures which make up most of the country's financial systems are strikingly similar. Japan, a member of both the G7 and the G8, is the third largest economy in the world with a GDP of almost 5 trillion dollars, matched only by China and the United States. However, despite its prosperous history, Japan, much like Kenya, finds itself in a time of turmoil and havoc. With a public debt of over 230% of its annual GDP, roughly 11 trillion dollars, Japan holds the largest debt to GDP ratio of any nation in the world. This colossal debt is a result of many events, the most critical of which was the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster. Undoubtedly, these issues forced politicians to rethink their fiscal and monetary policies and alter their strategy. At the heart of all financial policies lies the Minister of Finance. The ministry deals with not only monetary policy, which pertains to the regulation, availability, and cost of credit, but also with fiscal policy regarding government expenditures, taxes, and debt. Its job is to allocate the resources within the economy, stabilize the level of economic activities, as well as promote economic development and prosperity, and distribute income and wealth among citizens. Following this severe financial crisis, several policies were changed and new ones introduced to halt the downfall. Primarily, Japan made an effort to raise inflation expectations by having the Bank of Japan expend the money supply internally. This pushed the inflation up to 2%. Next, Japan was called to cut its deficit by lowering its massive spending on infrastructure projects and raise its taxes to increase public revenue. As a result, a bill was passed that doubled the national consumption tax from 5% to 10%. The consumer tax also increased from 3 to 5%, while the income tax remained a progressive tax which ranged from 5% to 40% depending on income. Furthermore, because of the rapid appreciation in the Japanese stock market, the Bank of Japan purchased more than 70% of Japanese government bonds to begin stabilizing the economy. On the other hand, Kenya is the largest East African economy and is considered by many to be one of Africa's lion economies. However, Kenya won its independence only 50 years ago. Therefore, government officials have little or no experience whatsoever with fiscal or monetary policies. Kenyans rely mostly on the International Monetary Fund on supervision and assistance regarding their economic activity. The World Bank has warned Kenya of its unwise economic decisions and has claimed that its national budget has significantly deteriorated over the last couple of years. Kenya's debt to GDP ratio has risen by more than 10% since 2007, and its growing budget deficit is beginning to create more and more problems within the state. Despite constant warnings by the World Bank to adopt austerity measures to reduce spending and increase revenues, the government has failed to adopt any sort of policies over the last couple of years, while the deficit continues to widen and the tax system remains untouched with a progressive income tax ranging from 10% to 30% depending on earnings and a corporate tax of 30%. The only monetary policy that is implemented in the country is by the Central Bank of Kenya, which is directly controlled by the Minister of Finance similar to Japan. The bank can formulate policies that either expand or contract money supply in the economy. They also have the power to change the reserve requirement, which is currently at 6%. Moreover, the central bank can buy or sell government securities in the money market in order to achieve a desired level of money in circulation. Similarly, the bank lends big sums of money to commercial banks and offers its assistance in decision-making regarding the welfare of other commercial banks. Despite these shortcomings, when it comes to financial policies, Kenya has managed to attain an annual GDP growth rate of 5.5%, with the current GDP at around 55 billion dollars. Life expectancy and the GNI per capita have also increased between the early 1960s and today. Life expectancy has increased from 48 years in 1963 to 63 in 2013, and the GNI per capita has moved from $100 in 1963 to more than $850 nowadays. The child mortality rates per 1,000 live have also decreased from about 200 to less than 70. Nonetheless, life in Kenya, much like its financial system, remains extremely deprived. The unemployment is surging at almost 40%, inflation is near 6%, and the government budget is at minus 4.8%. while poverty and healthcare remain at all-time lows. Almost 70% of the population lives on less than $2 a day, while there are about 20 doctors per 100,000 citizens. Undeniably, there is no competition between Kenya and Japan, with the latter being superior in every aspect of modern day life. Japan's economy is not its only weapon. Its HDI ranks 11th highest in the world at 0.88, a life expectancy of 83 years, and a GNI per capita of more than 45,000 US dollars. Nevertheless, financially, regarding the monetary and fiscal policies in both states, there is an alignment and a pattern which can be identified in both systems.